All right. Hello, hello. Thank you, everyone, for joining me with my session. What a beautiful audience I have here, I have to say. You guys are great. All right. So I'm here to talk about monitoring Horizon VDI clients and home networks using VMware Advanced Monitoring for Horizon, powered by ControlUp Remote DX to ensure happy remote users. That is quite a title. So I'll just preface this by saying that originally this was going to be done by my work colleague Tom Fenton. That's why it says Analyst Storage Review. I forgot to update that. He unfortunately caught COVID, so I'm taking his place. So let's see how it goes. All right, so we're going to go over the agenda. So just a little quick overview as to what this is about, the problem, the solution, and then how we can get ControlUp Remote DX. So the problem. Working remotely brought a whole bunch of new issues in the world today. All of a sudden, we went from having 3 massive offices to 50,000 offices. And that's a really big challenge because managing those number of devices, those number of users, and how they interact with your organization and technology is quite a challenge. And actually, these two gentlemen here playing video games, actually that happens to be Tom on the right and my boss Joel on the left. Even playing video games can cause issues in your environment, believe it or not, as long as they're connecting through Wi-Fi. So, little spoiler, but what ControlUp Remote DX is, it is a virtual channel driver that you add to VMware Horizon. And how it operates is that we've got our ControlUp agent on the VDI side, you've got the Remote DX virtual channel driver on the client side, and then they communicate. Actually, it's a one-way communication. So the client will send data relevant to the endpoint to us for us to make a visualization like this, so that way you can understand how your user's remote workforce is operating. So in this particular case, you can see the first red box here on the far right. This is actually the endpoint that it's actually running on. The one to the left of that is the Wi-Fi signal strength. So we update these metrics every 5 seconds when we're gathering this data. So this is as near real time as you could possibly get. And then to the left of that is the first hop. This is your Wi-Fi access point. And why this is important is you can see that little 4 milliseconds at the bottom. That is the floor for your network and how your clients are going to operate when they're connecting into your environment. If that was 300 milliseconds, 400 milliseconds, that is the floor that they operate from. We now provide you that visibility. You can see the next one on the left to that is now the total session latency. So this is a calculated value that we've done in addition to the one that VMware provides. We did that so that way we understand how it operates. A lot of times these metrics are black boxes, but if we develop it, we understand it. And then the last one here is the actual VDI or server-based computing that you might be connecting into. So, what gets collected by Remote DX? We collect a wealth of metrics and metadata. Everything you see here. So probably the most important one is your LAN latency or internet latency and Wi-Fi signal strength. Those are probably the ones that you're going to look at the most that will determine how your users are having their connection be. So that's going to determine how their experience is. So you can see we also collect other things like client inactive time. This was a request that we got in order, I wouldn't say to quite big brother it, but to give you more of a picture as to whether your users are actually being active on their home devices. Because obviously when they're connected in, if they're not using your session actively, that idle timer is going to start counting up in that session. And that's not necessarily fair if they've got multi-monitors and they're watching a video maybe for training or something on that other screen. With this, we're getting that from the endpoint. So, how does it collect information? As I mentioned, it is a virtual channel. So it is a single DLL. That's it. There's nothing that's always running. There's nothing that's always monitoring people. Just a very single DLL gets added onto the user or onto the machine. We add some registry keys to activate it in Horizon, and then boom, away you go. On the VDI, we expect you to be using the ControlUp agent to be monitoring it. And so that would be the only thing that you would install on the VDI, but of course, that is expected. So I'll give a quick little demo as to how this works. I believe this is a video. Yes. All right, so away he goes. All right, so what you're looking at here is there's 4 user sessions connected into this machine. And we'll let the video move. All right, so he's selected it. He's going to zoom out. We're going to see the 4 sessions here. So we've got the top user here. This is the guy who's actually connected in. That's why he has an active session. He's connected into a VDI. We've got other metrics that are relevant to the session. This is outside of Remote DX. This is just standard ControlUp. As he scrolls over, we will actually see the Remote DX metrics. So latency last, that's actually the Horizon metric, not ours. Keep going. All right, you can see client IP, client name, network. We have logon duration metrics. Get the username, protocol. All right, now we're hitting the Remote DX metrics. So this is the big one. This is an aggregate metric that we've developed that takes all of those metrics that you saw, the LAN latency, the internet latency, and it applies it here. When you click on this, this is what develops the visualization for us. So this is in our ControlUp Solve product. So boom, you can see he's got, again, everything I just saw before, the endpoint, the first hop being 2 milliseconds, so this is a pretty good connection, 96% Wi-Fi signal strength. You can see the Wi-Fi SSID, and we actually collect the Wi-Fi BSSID as well. And that is super important. I used to work in healthcare, and one of the biggest challenges we had was mesh networks. As people were roaming across hospitals, they were encountering drops at certain parts of the hospital. Of course, our network guys were saying, no, nothing is wrong, nothing is wrong. But what we discovered is that the BSSID is the actual physical antenna on those devices. So when those drops were occurring, if we would have had ControlUp Remote DX at a time, we would have been able to identify the exact Wi-Fi device that was causing that issue. Of course, 6 months later, it died because it was being stored in the ceiling and it overheated. But unfortunately, it took way too long for that to actually get solved. But with Remote DX, we would have been able to do that very, very quickly. All right, so he's going to demo virtual desktops here. So we're looking at the desktop name. And now this is our on-premises product. So this is our C# product. This is the ControlUp real-time console. And this is all the same metrics you see here, except now we're presenting it in our classic way. So all the same things you see here, all of these columns, by the way, can also be used for automation. So we can actually pick up that the ClientOS version is out of date, and we can prevent a user from logging onto your systems. We can actually pick up, what the active application is that they happen to be running on their client side. Wi-Fi radio type, Wi-Fi channel, et cetera, et cetera. Wi-Fi authentication, that's another big one. Obviously, if you're working from a hotel, you're connected to an open network, everyone can see what you're doing. So important to know whether or not you want to allow those type of users on your premises network there, even if it's through a technology like Horizon. Other telemetry that we collect as well, obviously you're seeing active application and active application title, very cool stuff. Again, as I was saying, the Wi-Fi authentication with the RSNA. All right. So different Wi-Fi authentication types and different devices will report this differently, but RSNA with PSK, so that's with the pre-shared key. All right, and so now he's showing how you can use automation here. Exactly what I was describing. So he's targeting a session object. He's looking for Wi-Fi authentication is not WPA3. So if you have a high standard saying, I only want this level of connectivity, you can define that. If we detect that text in the authentication string, then this automation will occur after it's been detected for 3 seconds. Okay, he's targeting a specific scope of machines. So this would be a specific scope of VDI machines that he's targeting. And this is the action. So if he detected, he used an is not. So if you are not connecting into Wi-Fi or with Wi-Fi WPA3 security, he's going to execute this action to log you off. So as soon as that user logs on, we collect the metric. We say, hey, that's not WPA3. That user is gone. And then in addition to that, he's got an automation set up so that way he gets an email alert. So that way he knows who happened to connect in through an unsecure network. Great job, Tom. And boom, that session is disconnected. Yes? Sorry? That's right. The user got disconnected because it did not comply. So they did not have WPA3, and so thus that user was disconnected. Does the user get notified about that? That's a great question. We can notify the user as well, so that is an option that you can choose to take. We have many different ways of notifying the users. We've got actions that allow you to put toast notifications out there. We got ones that are based on timeouts, so it can show a dialogue for like 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 120 seconds, and then once it times out, it executes the action. So there are ways of notifying the user without being that aggressive, yes. All right, so now he's going to show another demonstration of virtual desktops and how we can use automation within ControlUp to help you in your Horizon environment. So in this particular one, he's going to show that a disk is getting full, and then obviously if a disk gets full, you can have a really bad day, especially if you run out of space entirely, and he's going to enable a trigger to clean up that disk. So this is an example of bad Wi-Fi. This is an example of high latency. So again, you can see the metrics that we're collecting. So again, this is the floor. This is probably the most important metric. This is going to be establishing how fast the rest of the connection is. In this particular case that he has, you can see that we've got 175 milliseconds to Google. We pinged the Google DNS servers. The reason why we do that is because they're geographically dispersed. So we consider them a pretty good proxy for the internet, how the internet experience would be for that user, and then obviously to the session as well. So he was blocking his hotel. Not quite sure what he was trying to say here, actually. But he got an alert for it. So it looks like he connected in without any kind of text whatsoever. So this would be a notification that you would get as an IT admin. So that would be the email that he set up earlier. This is what you would see. This is customizable. You can actually customize these templates. All right, and then the last thing, analyze logon duration. So this is an ability to actually troubleshoot your logons for your Horizon sessions. And I'm actually, I like to think of myself as an expert for troubleshooting logons. So ControlUp actually offers some metrics out of the box. But what you can do is you can actually drill down a lot deeper, and I highly encourage you to come check us out at the ControlUp booth if you want to see an example of this, because it's really cool stuff. And we are on VMware Test Drive, so if you want to try us out, check us out on Test Drive. All right, more information, and I think we are done. All right, thank you very much.